Past photos of the Prime Minister in black and brown face have once again opened up the conversation on this racist practice deeply rooted in white supremacy. But some say we're missing the mark. And during an important election year, should be asking what each leader is doing to address racism and develop policies inclusive of all Canadians.
Blackface, is a historical issue for black folks. And I would argue that it has become, throughout the decades have become a rite of passage for young white people.
What are your thoughts about where the conversation has been going?
The conversation where it is a very superficial one, in the sense that it is not dealing with the issue of race. This is about white supremacy, and it's about a certain kind of white innocence being played out in our society that allows this weight to fall on black and brown bodies again. Now it becomes our responsibility to deal with this issue. This is not our issue.
Beverly Bain is a professor at the Department of Historical Studies at the University of Toronto. She's been closely following the conversation around Trudeau's photos depicting him in black and brown face. She says she wasn't shocked by the fact that they existed.
It is pretentious and hypocritical, of our leaders, of white folks in this country, to pretend that this is something that does not exist in Canada.
Bain says though the resulting conversations expose racism, they don't deal with them, saying leaders should instead focus on policies that leave out racialized populations and address anti-racism changes on a greater scale.
What are you doing, right, to ensure that black lives, Indigenous lives, brown lives are not being, dispensed with? If we did that, we would have to talk about the kinds of policies that white leaders are putting forward that are not necessarily sustainable policies for black, for Indigenous, for brown people in this country.
In one of the photos revealed this week, Trudeau was donning what has been dubbed as brownface at an Arabian Nights party in 2001.
People across Canada are lacking an understanding and awareness of, Arab culture and history.
The executive director of the Canadian Arab Institute, a national nonpartisan community engagement think tank, agrees, saying evidence-based policies that address discrepancies are necessary.
What we would like to see is what all our elected officials are doing in this upcoming federal election to really tackle systemic racism. I would like the conversation to be about, the 73% of, the Canadian Arab community that are first generation, the 13.5% unemployment rate of visible minorities across Canada. That is almost double, the national average. It's a superficial conversation in the sense that where the media has not really focused on what really matters at hand.
And for you, what does really matter? What should this conversation be about?
This conversation should be about the promotion of diversity.
We need to steer the conversation away from the representational, which is the black-brown face, and start asking questions of our leaders.